Hello, good morning, friends. Today we are going to discuss the next topic, that is cardiomyopathy. In the previous session, we have discussed about the dilated cardiomyopathy. In this session, we will discuss about the hypertrophic and restrictive cardiomyopathy. In the previous class, in the previous session, we have discussed about the dilated, in which there is a dilatation of the ventricular cavity, and the walls, the ventricle walls, they are basically thinned out, and simultaneously there is failure of contraction, which result in systolic failure in case of dilated cardiomyopathy. So if we go through the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, it is basically characterized by the myocardial hypertrophy, and this result in the poorly relaxing ventricles, which result in abnormal diastolic filling, and this all together lead to the diastolic dysfunction. So if we see that the hypertrophy means there is an increase in the cell size. So those cells which do not divide, they undergo the process of hypertrophy. It is one of the type of cellular adaptation. Around 1/3 cases, they are having the intermittent ventricular outflow obstruction. This obstruction is because of the septal hypertrophy. We will discuss about this in the upcoming slides. So hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is basically a systolic function is preserved, and it is the diastolic function which is abnormal. So basically the ventricles, they fail to relax, and this failure will result in the diastolic dysfunctioning. And these type of similar changes are seen in other conditions of the heart, especially the infiltrative disease of the heart, in which there is infiltration by the abnormal proteins or minerals or some infections. So due to the amyloidosis, in which there is abnormal protein deposition is seen in the ventricular muscles, and there may be fibrosis or there may be sarcoidosis, in which there is a formation of granulomas are there. The second condition is hypertensive heart disease. So in these both the conditions, there is a typical type of hypertrophy. This hypertrophy is called a subaortal septal hypertrophy, and these two conditions basically they mimic with the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So this should be differentiated on the echocardiography. Apart from these two conditions, there are valvular or congenital heart disease also. They also mimic the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. If we go through the overview of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, we can see that in this the causes, they are 100% of genetic type, and most of the proteins they are abnormal due to the mutation of the encoding genes, and these mutations are of basically dominant type, in which if one allele is mutated, the person will have the disease. So all the diseases, all the mutations or most of the mutations, they are of dormant type. So this defect in the sarcomeric protein will lead to the defect in the energy transfer from the mitochondria to the sarcomere, or there may be direct sarcomeric dysfunctioning occurs. And grossly we can see there is a changes which appears as there is a hypertrophy of ventricles, and special to this is the asymmetrical septal hypertrophy, which is a very characteristics of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Under the microscope, we can observe the disordered arrangement of the myofibers, and this is called as myofiber disarray, and this can be seen under the microscope. Along with this we can see the interstitial fibrosis, and simultaneously there is left ventricular outflow tract obstruction is also there, and plaque formation is there in the outflow tract, and there is a thickening of the septal vessels. So these all gross changes can lead to the gross and microscopic change can lead to the clinical outcome. And in the clinical outcome we can see the patient may develop the heart failure, features of or symptoms of heart failure, or the patient may undergo the sudden cardiac death, or there may be arterial fibrillation due to the enlargement of the atrium, and there may be the stroke due to the detachment of the mural thrombi from their places to, and it lodges to the different sides of the body, and they can produce the stroke. If we go through the pathogenesis is basically concerned with the mutation in the gene. As I said, this mutation is of basically dormant type, in which one allele is if one allele is defective, then the person will have the disease. So this type of cardiomyopathy is very common in young patients. So mutation of these genes basically which encode the sarcomeric proteins, out of these three are very important, in which if the mutation of genes encoding the beta myosin heavy chain is mutated, in some cases there is a mutation of gene of myosin binding protein C, and there may be the mutation of gene encoding the cardiac troponin T and I. All these proteins, they are concerned with and they help in the contraction and relaxation of the muscles. So around 70 to 80% of all cases of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, these mutations basically they are the cause of the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. If we go through the morphology, we can see grossly there is a massive ventricular hypertrophy without dilatation, and there is a disappropriate or disproportionate thickening of the ventricular septum in comparison to the free wall of the ventricles, and this type of hypertrophy is called as asymmetrical septal hypertrophy. And on cut section we can see that the ventricular cavity loses its normal round to ovoid shape, and it is basically compressed and it appears like a banana like. This appearance is due to the bulging of the ventricular septum into the lumen of the ventricles. So this is very characteristic feature under the gross we can see, and we can appreciate it. Apart from this, there may be presence of mural thrombus in the ventricles or atrium, and there is a mitral wall leaflet thickening is also there. So these are the few gross changes or by which we can diagnose the condition. So under the gross section, here we can see the black arrow. It is showing that there is a bulging of septum into the ventricular cavity, which lead to the narrowing of the cavity, and it appears to be as banana like, or it appears compressed. Banana like appearance is typically seen, and this type of appearance is very characteristic of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. If we go through the microscopic changes, and there is a, as we have said, there is a extensive myocyte hypertrophy, and this myocyte hypertrophy is basically in which the transverse diameter is greater than 40 microns. It is normal around 15 micron, but in this type of hypertrophy you can see the transverse diameter, it is increased 2 to 3 times the normal. There may be the arrangement of bundles of myocyte, they arranged in disordered fashion. So this typical type of picture is called as myofiber disarray, and this also can be seen under the microscope. Apart from this, we can see the interstitial fibrosis, and this fibrosis occurred due to the activation of the fibrocytes, which basically make the extracellular matrix in which the cardiac muscle cells or myocyte they embedded. So these are the three important features which we can see under the microscopy. And this is the diagrammatic representation. Here we can see the myocytes, and these myocytes are having round to elongated nuclei along with deep eosinophilic matrix, and there is arrangement of these myocyte bundles. They arrange in the intersecting bundles, and this disordered arrangement is called as the myofiber disarray, and we can see the interstitial fibrosis as well. So these are the three important features which we can appreciate under the microscope. If you go through the pathophysiology, the left ventricular hypertrophy will lead to the decrease in the ventricular chamber size, and this result in the impaired diastolic filling, and because of this impaired diastolic filling, there is a decrease in the stroke volume, and once the stroke volume is decreased, so this leads to the decrease in the cardiac output, and simultaneously there occurs the increased pulmonary venous pressure. So these two changes, the decrease in the cardiac output and increased pulmonary venous pressure, produces the clinical symptoms. So we can see in the next slide the clinical symptoms. Due to the decreased cardiac output, the patient will have exertional dyspnea, and under the on auscultation we can see is a typical type of murmur. This is called as harsh systolic murmur, and this murmur is basically seen in the systolic due to the ejection of the blood, and there may be the patient may experience the anginal pain due to the compression of vessels and increased oxygen demands in hypertrophy, and there may be the arterial fibrillation due to the enlargement of the atrium, which can result in arterial fibrillation, and there may be the presence of mural thrombus formed due to the especially they are formed in the atrium, and this mural thrombus, they are formed because of the regurgitation of the blood, and these mural thrombi may basically dislodge from their own site, and they convert into emboli, and these emboli may obstruct the vessels at different site of the body, and they produce the stroke. So hypertrophic cardiomyopathy is the most common cause of sudden cardiac death in young athletes. So this is very important that the young athletes, if they are having mutation of any of these three genes, they can lead to the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and the patient may undergo sudden cardiac death. So if you want to diagnose the this condition, the echocardiography is considered to be the gold standard test for diagnosing the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So if we see the ventricular or unexplained maximal wall thickness, if it is more than 15 millimeter in any myocardial segment, or there may be septal or posterior wall thickness ratio if it is more than 1.3 in case of normal tensive patients, or there may be the septal or posterior wall thickness ratio if it is more than 1.5 in case of hypertensive patients. So these are the three important criteria by which we can diagnose the condition. If we go through the management is concerned with the in order to decrease the heart rate and contractibility, and the drug of choice, it is the beta blocker group, which basically perform these two functions. They will decrease the heart rate as well as the cardiac contractility. So as we know that in case of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy there is a hypercontracting heart, so the the rate of contraction should be reduced, and this can be achieved by the beta blockers. Secondly, we can give the injection of alcohol through a catheter, and we used to produce the septal infarction, and this septal infarction reduces the mass of the septum, which decreases the outflow obstruction. So this is a intervention by which we can reduce the size of the septal hypertrophy, and the patient may have some relief. And the prognosis of the condition is basically it is related to the type of mutation which is seen. So this is all about the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And now coming to the restrictive cardiomyopathy, so it is characterized by the decrease in the ventricular compliance and result in the impaired ventricular filling, and that lead to the diastolic dysfunctioning. So as the systolic function is normal, this condition mimic with the constrictive pericarditis or hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. If we go through the causes of the restrictive cardiomyopathy, we can see there is idiopathic causes. Most of the causes they are idiopathic, and one of the important cause is the radiation induced fibrosis, and there may be the infiltrative disease of the heart, and this infiltration occurs by the abnormal proteins or some type of minerals. They infiltrate in the myocardium, myocardial muscle, and they can also restrict the function of the ventricles. So in this category we can see the amyloidosis, in which there is a deposition of abnormal protein extracellularly, and the sarcoidosis, in which there is a formation of granulomas in the muscle or ventricular wall. There may be the metastatic deposits of tumors, or there may be hemochromatosis which occurs due to the iron overload, and there may be the inborn errors of the metabolism. So these are the few causes of the restrictive cardiomyopathies. If we want to diagnose this condition, on the X-ray we can see the Carli V lines seen due to the pulmonary edema, and on the ECG we can see the low voltage QRS complex, and under the echocardiography we can see the increased ventricular thickness along with the Y arterial enlargement, and the ejection fraction is appear to be the normal. It is normal in between the 50 to 70%. So these are the criteria by which we can diagnose the condition. There is a special condition in which there is a restriction of the function of the ventricles. This condition is called as endomyocardial fibrosis, and this typical type of condition is seen in the Africans, especially in the children and adults. And we can see in this condition there is an extensive type of fibrosis is seen in the endocardium as well as subendocardium, and this fibrosis may extend from the apex to the mitral and tricuspid wall. So this is a typical type of feature of this condition, and this extensive fibrosis will result in the restrictive function of the ventricles. And if we go through the cause of this condition, we can see this fibrous tissue is formed due to the organization of the mural thrombi. So as we know that the mural thrombi, they are formed due to the high jets of the blood, and the endothelium of the lining ventricles, they are injured, and there is a deposition of platelet, and there is a formation of platelet plug, and over this the coagulation cascade is also started, and that lead to the formation of thrombus. And once this thrombus is formed, there may be presence of inflammatory cells, and these chronic inflammatory cells, they will release a lot of chemical mediators, and these chemical mediators, they can initiate the process of fibrosis in the endocardium and subendocardium. So this was the pathogenesis of this condition. The second special condition is the Loeffler's endomyocarditis. It is basically inflammatory condition in which there is a endomyocardial fibrosis with large thrombi are seen, and this condition is associated with the peripheral eosinophilia. So in the blood we can see the eosinophil count is high, and these infiltrate into the different organs. So eosinophil basically they releases the various type of chemical mediators which causes the endomyocardial necrosis and followed by the scarring. The patient of the Loeffler's endocarditis have the myeloproliferative disorders, and in which we can see the chromosomal rearrangement of the genes, especially in the platelet-derived growth factor alpha, platelet-derived growth factor receptor alpha, and platelet-derived growth factor receptor beta. So these the genes concerned with these two receptors, there is a chromosomal rearrangement is seen. If we see the drug of choice for this condition is the tyrosine kinase inhibitor. It is the same drug which is used in case of the chronic myeloid leukemia, and it is a magic drug. The name of this drug is the imatinib, and this imatinib can reverse the features of or symptoms of the endocarditis. Another special condition is the endocardial fibroelastosis, in which there is focal or diffuse fibroelastic thickening of the ventricular endocardium, and this is commonly seen in first 2 years of the life, and the diffuse involvement of the ventricles can lead to the death of the person. So this is all about the cardiomyopathy. I hope this video will be helpful for you. Thank you very much.